Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Midlife Mayhem, the podcast all about midlife and the beautiful chaos that it creates. I'm Kim Branham, RMBSN and owner of Thin Space Wellness. Welcome back. This is episode number 8. I was having a really hard time figuring out what to talk about for episode 8. Following up on a series about trauma after sharing my story about losing my mom traumatically as a child. How do you follow up with that? Do you talk about hormone pellets? Do you talk about, so it's 3 a.m. I'm in North Carolina. My family's asleep. I hope they stay that way for at least another couple of hours. Um, but what I found is that in doing this podcast, I've opened up a can of worms, big can of worms, in a really good way. It doesn't feel good all the time, but I know that it's a positive thing. So this morning I woke up and just immediately, like, I just felt like anxiety and anger, like all these feelings. And I was like, what is going on with me? And it's like talking about my mom's accident and talking about what happened has just opened up so many things that have been suppressed for me for years. Um, so, relationships that are fractured, um, times that I've been severely mistreated and was quiet about it, and things that didn't get resolved, relationships gone wrong. It just so much like just came up, and I was just like feeling all these feelings, and I was like, you know what? Okay, this is how I felt in Colorado when I did my very first episode of the podcast. So let's go. It wasn't quite that easy. I'm now on my second cup of coffee, so I'm at least a little coherent. Hmm. But so the topic of this podcast is going to be midlife relationships. And I felt like that was a really great place to start because it leads to a whole lot of other conversations that I want to have on this podcast. We eventually will talk about divorce, we'll talk about blended families, not just my current blended family, but blended families that I've grown up in, blended families that other people have experienced, divorce situations that other people have been through. That seems to be on my heart a lot, because there's so much surrounding that. It impacts so many people, and I feel like it's not talked about very often. So it impacts all relationships when families go through divorce or blended families. It impacts how you interact with your neighbors. It impacts how you feel about the way people feel about you. It's just so loaded, and there's so much there to unpack. So we'll do that another time. However, I did want to focus on midlife relationships and start there, instead of going backwards and coming to now. We'll start now and kind of touch on the past. Um, so, relationships are hard. Relationships are beautiful things, they're very needed. We all need our tribe, we all need our family, whatever your family looks like. We all need our family. And my relationships, to think about how my relationships have changed over the years and my perception of relationships in my midlife, it's pretty miraculous. And I wish for my teenage self, for my college self, for my young 20s self, like I wish that I could have known and felt the way about relationships then that I feel now. Um, but it all served a purpose and there's a reason, right? So to touch on the past, like, I know that in my history and in my upbringing, I grew up to be a people pleaser. I grew up fearing abandonment in people. So I would cling to people. I'd cling to relationships, especially as a younger child. I remember, especially elementary school, high school, I would just cling to people and just wanted so badly to be the most important person to someone. I'm not going to cry in every episode, I promise. um, but that's been, I crave to be important to people. I crave for people to value me. Um, and it doesn't mean that I want to be like worshipped. I mean, I feel like that sounds so bad, but it's like it means more to me than people know when they've shared with me and made me feel, done things that have made me feel that I'm important to them. And, that gets into like love languages and what are your love languages. It's hard to describe. So I'll get into that later. But I'm realizing this in my midlife is that's what I crave from people is like I want to be important to people, and be a priority. And there are a lot of, I mean, you heard my story. There's a lot of pieces from that I'm sure come from the childhood trauma, my dad remarrying, divorcing, my dad remarrying again. And it's like you get this kind of like almost like a battle for the attention. And my dad had to give attention in a lot of different directions to me and my brother, to his current wife, to his other two children from his first marriage, to then stepchildren. I mean, he was spread in a lot of different ways and a lot of people pulling at him. And it wasn't until my grandfather Harris passed away, my mom's dad, when we were cleaning out the house, if you heard my previous podcast, and I found the accident report papers, my relationship with my dad completely changed. My dad's always been my person, but I've always been hesitant to upset him by asking about my mom or to talk about, like, I was always scared to ask him about Vietnam because he didn't talk about it very much. But so there were things I just was kind of scared to ask my dad about. And after my granddaddy passed away, and I kind of saw my mom's accident from my dad's eyes and what he went through, I don't know, I felt like I grew up in that situation a little bit. So, my dad and I, our relationship grew really, really strong after that point, and I would call and we talked almost every morning or at least texted, but I felt comfortable asking him anything and realized like I need to ask him these questions about my mom. What are her favorite foods? I mean, just things that, I didn't know. Um, so we talked about all sorts of things, and I miss my dad. I know I've said that before. I miss my dad. I know many of you miss your dads and moms, and losing parents and having that hole is hard. So my dad's, has always been the person I know. I've known I could go to my dad for anything, and have gone to him for everything. But when our relationship changed and I lost him, I felt very alone. I know I've said that before. But he's one of the very few people in my entire life that has known me through and through, that I've been completely honest with and transparent. Um, and my husband Steven, I feel like he knows the real me. And I don't know how many other people really, truly, really know me. I mean, I have very close relationships with people, but I have this guarded piece of myself where, I've started talking more about these things, but I recognize that I'm very guarded. I share in a guarded way, if that makes sense. I shared openly about my mom. It's challenging to talk about that, but it's fact. It's something that happened. So what I'm realizing with relationships in my midlife is that, with my dad not here any longer, I feel like I've just kept that guardedness up. So Stephen, lucky for him, gets to see the real me on a daily basis, as raw as I am. And he loves me through it. And it's taken a long time to let my guard down, even with him on some of these things. But I'm recognizing that I'm not for everyone. That's one of the biggest lessons I think I've learned in midlife relationships is the people pleaser in me is still there. I still want I want to help people. I want everybody to like me, especially people I really respect. And when people don't like me or when people are rude to me or unkind, especially when I've not done anything to them, I really have a hard time with it. And I want to like prove to them, hey, I'm worthy. I'm worthy of your friendship. So I'm working in my midlife on letting that go, that accepting I'm not for everyone. I think the first time I really recognized that and made peace with it was when I was working at the school. I was a middle and high school chorus teacher for 6 years. And there was a person at the school that I could not crack, had never done one thing to this person, could not crack this person. And every time I'd walk by the person in the hallway, I'm like, hey, good morning. How was your weekend? I offered to let them use my mountain cabin that we rent out for Airbnb. They're not even nice to me. What is wrong with me? They didn't take me up on it, thank goodness. But it's like I finally recognized at some point, I don't know when it was, but I was just like, I'm just not for this person. And that's okay. And that was a big lesson for me. So, lesson number one, I'm not for everyone. You're not for everyone. Um, so, it doesn't mean that if you're not for someone that, you can't be cordial. Obviously, like I didn't just start being rude to this person when I realized that, but it's like it kinda is a freedom. It just releases you from, like, the stress of, like, "Oh, here that person comes. I need to do blah, 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 and, like, be nice to be a people pleaser." Okay, so that was a big lesson for me in midlife. Sip of coffee. There's a 3 a.m. kicking in. So the second thing that has become very, very important to me midlife with my relationships is to protect my peace. Protect the peace of my family at all cost. So sometimes that means weeding your garden, as some people would say, trimming the fat, as others would say. Sometimes you have to eliminate people and relationships in your life, as hard as it may be, that are toxic to you and your family. So, with that being said, it's hard. That's hard. That is hard to do, right? Like, there are certain, I mean, family members, like your blood family relatives, it is hard to trim that fat. Um, but again, you can do those things in a loving way without being rude, without being like mean to the person. It's just like, okay, I'm putting up these healthy like boundaries with these people, whoever it may be. Um, but I remember being in church years ago. Steve and I were dating. I mean, this was like forever ago. But I remember being in church and the whole sermon was absolutely amazing. I need to go back and it probably wasn't recorded. This was way before COVID. Um, but it was such a strong message about this, about weeding your garden and protecting your peace. And I remember the minister saying, I don't care if it's your sister, I don't care if it's your mother. If that person is toxic and sucking your energy, cut it out. Cut it out. It doesn't mean you don't have to talk to them, but in your mind, having healthy boundaries with the relationships that you have, even your family members, it makes it easier to have your peace. Um, what does that look like? I'm trying to think if there's an example I can use without completely throwing anybody under the bus. And there's not at the moment, but let's, hey, we're talking about divorce soon. Okay. So there's, divorce brings a lot of things and a lot of challenges and a lot of relationships that end, friendships, some people don't, not that they don't know how to handle divorce, but it's like you have to choose a side. And I don't know, divorce is just insane. That's why it's a whole nother episode of the podcast. But there were a lot of relationships lost during my divorce. And it breaks my heart. But so the people pleaser in me tried to keep those relationships. And then I had to reassess the important relationships in my life and the relationships that were supporting me and my son. And then the relationships that were supporting me and my new husband and my new blended family. And the ones that weren't, and the ones that I could feel judgment from, it was kind of like, okay, I say hi to those people. I still like some of those people, but, you know, I don't know. It's hard to explain, hard to get into without giving specific examples, but I won't do that. So, yeah, that weeding the garden is super important to maintain your peace and your family's peace. So, I think the other important thing that I've learned is letting go of the shoulds in relationships, like what my relationship should look like. And I will give you an example for this one. My sweet son. when he was 15, right before his 16th birthday, decided to go live with his father. So he had been living with me full time, seeing his dad a night or two a week. And he decided to go live with his dad. I will not go into details, but that was one of the hardest things I've gone through. It's very challenging as a mom. I felt like a failure. Um, I miss my son. I see him now. We go grab lunch. We text, but it's unbelievable, like how hard this period of my life has been. And I've had to let go of what my relationship with my son should be. I should be parenting him. I should be part of his healthcare. I should be, at all of his events. He's a senior in high school this year. I should be. And I'm still working on learning to let that go. Someone once told me, don't should on yourself. That's not a cuss word. But, I've had to let go of my vision of what our relationship I thought it would look like. And once I did that, again, I'm still working on it, but once I did that, I feel like our relationship has started to repair and started to grow back because I've just accepted that things are different. He's not he's not my little boy anymore. He's my young man. But he's growing into his own and I'm so proud of him. And my role is to support him and not judge him. And if he asks for my help and he asks for my opinions, to help him. Um, but that's, I've just recognized that that's my role. I'm not, if he tells me he's done something that I don't agree with, it's not my job to be like, you shouldn't do that. Even that should, there's that should word again. Even though I want to sometimes, I want to put my 2 cents in there, and because that's what I've done his whole life. But the relationship, it's a transition, and transitions are challenging. But yeah, the shoulds, I have to let go of those. I had to let go of the shoulds with my dad, even because my dad really wanted everyone to be treated the same. So all stepchildren, all of his children, me, grandkids, like he wanted, and we had conversations about this because it was hard for me. He was my parent, my only parent. And he I wouldn't get to see them at holidays sometimes because they didn't feel comfortable coming to our house necessarily when they couldn't see the other children. It's hard. There's that blended family stuff. It's hard. Relationships are just hard. So, but I've just always felt like, oh, it should look like this for Christmas. It should. I feel like that's one of the biggest things that I'm grateful for in my midlife is recognizing that, there are a lot of things that should be different, but they're not. And if you can't control them and you can't change them, just deal with it and keep your peace. I don't know. I still work on that sometimes, but I feel like most days I'm pretty able to roll with the punches, which I've not always been able to do. My dad used to tell me, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. Cause I would stress out, just absolutely stress out if something wasn't like I thought it was supposed to be, or if it wasn't according to plan. And I've definitely slowed my roll in my midlife, especially. And I'm so grateful for that. Grateful for my dad and his advice. And I wish I had realized what he meant by that sooner. Don't sweat the small stuff. Okay, so what else have I processed through and learned in midlife relationships? Oof, this is a good one. This is a good one. Family is not always blood. That's a hard one because then I think back to all the shoulds that I think in my head. Like, I should be closer with this person. I should have this type of relationship with my stepmom. I should. Okay. Still got to let that go. That word goes into my head way too often. Um, so yeah, family's not always blood. And I learned that when I really recognized that. And my gosh, this was drilled into my head by my mother in law, Dawn DePoy. That woman, whew, she took me in, her and her husband, John. Dawn and John lived in Estes Park. They are the reason that we're there right now. Well, not at this moment, but they shared their love with Estes Park with us. And Stephen took me, Stephen and I started dating in March. Can't remember what year. Feels like it was a long time ago. No offense, honey. But Stephen and I started dating, and I would say within 2 weeks, I don't know what he would say, but I would say within 2 weeks, I knew that I was done. Like he was the person I was meant to be with. And so at some point, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it was, we were like, this is it. Like we want to spend our lives together. It's kind of crazy. Um, so he took me to meet his mom at Estes Park and John. And I think that was in June. It was the beginning of June. So March, April, May, June. So 3 months we've been dating. And let's just say that a lot of people were not as receptive to our relationship as they were. And I experienced a lot of judgment from a lot of people, from family, from friends. Yeah, it was a hard time. It's a hard transition. And it's hard when you're a people pleaser to be judged and do something that like other people are seeing as wrong, or I don't know. It's hard to explain. Again, we'll get into that when we talk about like the divorce and blended family stuff and other podcasts. But um, so we went out to Colorado and they picked us up at the airport. And that day, like I just felt embraced. That's the only way I know how to describe it. Every time I was with Dawn and John, I felt embraced. I felt accepted. I never once felt judged from either of them. And there are not a lot of people in my life that I can say that about. Not even my own dad. Like I mean, I never, and that's not dissing my dad because he had very good reasons sometimes to judge me. But but Dawn and John, I never felt judged. I just felt accepted and loved. And I hope they felt the same for me. But Dawn always told me from the time I started getting together with them that I was her daughter. And she did not mean that lightly and would say it over and over and over again so that I would believe her. Um, I miss that woman so much, so much. I miss John. Um, but she taught me that family is not necessarily blood, and I was her daughter, and she was a mom to me. She was a second mom for sure. So we had this amazing relationship with John and Dawn. We traveled with them. If we weren't there, they were here. Especially when John got sick, then when Dawn got sick, it was just like we weren't separated. During COVID, I joked about getting an RV and naming it the Nana Getter because our kids call her Nana, and going out to Colorado to kidnap her. But anyway, that was a big lesson for me in midlife was family is not always blood. So in being in Colorado part time now and being in North Carolina the other part of the time, what I'm finding is I'm finding my family and I'm finding who those people are. I still will always have my family and I will always have my friends that I've established. I mean, I've been in this area for, gosh, over 25 years now. So I have some amazing, wonderful relationships, very deep and connected relationships that I'm beginning to even open up more about my truths. And I found that I keep quiet. One of my ways of coping, I think I've said this before in a podcast, is I get quiet, I go inward. So when people, let's see, I will talk about this example specifically. When my son left and went to live with his dad, people knew, our community knew. My ex husband was not quiet about what was going on and said absolutely horrible things about me. And I kept quiet because I didn't feel right out of respect for my son. It didn't feel right to talk to people about it, especially if people aren't asking me. I don't know who knows, who doesn't know. I don't know. It was the weirdest situation to deal with because I felt defensive, like I felt like I needed to defend myself to people because I could see judgment in people's eyes. Like sometimes you can just feel it. Um, but when somebody is slandering you and talking so poorly about you, which is, I mean, this is one example of so many, so many. How do you even deal with that? So my way of dealing with it was I just closed off. I just closed off. I didn't talk about it. I hid. I stopped going to all of the school events that I love to go to. I stopped working at the school. Um, a big part of that is that our wellness company was taking off, but it felt uncomfortable. My son was at the school and all of his friends, I don't know what he was telling them, my students, it was hard. So that was a really challenging time in life was to navigate through that. And I lost my train of thought because I just heard my husband. He's awake and he's not supposed to be. Um, but anyway, I don't even know what I was talking about. Sorry about that. And I'm not going to edit this. So there you go. Um, but yeah, so the judgment from other people and that was a challenging time. So maybe some of you guys have been through that, but it's, oh, maybe this was my point. I know this is a point. So we'll move on if it's not the point I was trying to make. So I'm losing my track again. I hear people out there and my dog's walking around. Oh my gosh. Oh, there it is. Okay. Got it. So I encourage you in talking about that, like with people not talking to me about knowing about the situation with my son, or people not talking to me, people that are close to me that didn't even feel comfortable asking me, like, are you okay? Like, that's hard. I lost my son. I lost my son, and his dad allowed him to disconnect from us and not communicate with us for way too long. My son was young, and I'm not judging him for any of it because it was a very hard situation. He was being told a lot of really bad stuff by his dad. So were a lot of other people. And even with my son, it's like, how do you defend when you don't know exactly what's being said and people aren't talking to you about it? So anyway, it's a really weird place to be. But I would encourage any of you listening, if there is someone that you see that you've heard through the grapevine that they're going through something, or you've heard there's a divorce, or you've heard that, there's this hard situation with a child, or talk, please talk to people. Because when you don't talk about it and people feel like they're alone, it's a horrible feeling. Some of you have probably experienced this before, but it's like people deal with stuff in silence and in private. And not that they have to like scream it from the mountaintops, but like help people out. Like ask them questions, ask them if they're okay. Um, I mean, I feel like my nature and being a nurse and I'm a caregiver, like I do like to talk about deep things. I crave deepness with people, deep rooted, connected relationships, like Bridget and I talked about. Those are the relationships that matter. Surface relationships, they're fine. They're great. I care about people, but I crave the deepness, the deep stuff. I want to know deep stuff. I want people to know my deep stuff. I'm growing to be that way in my midlife. Um, but it's important that you talk to people um, to either, especially if you're feeling judgmental towards someone about something, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know the truth. You don't know what they're going through. So if you're hearing that, oh, this person did this and that's why her son did this, you don't know the truth. Ask questions and learn the truth and care about people enough to ask. Like I think that's what as a society is really hard is people not talking about the hard things, whether it's trauma, whether it's, somebody's lost someone, even if you're just holding space for them, would you like to go get coffee? Sit there and don't say a word and just let them talk. I mean, it's just like holding space for your community and supporting other women, other moms, other dads, kids, whoever it is. If you know somebody's going through something, I just strongly urge you to just step in. And sometimes it can be as simple as doing something nice. Like I remember when I was going through all this craziness, um, somebody made cookies for me. And it was just this such a small thing, like not a small thing, but it was just like a simple gesture, but just to let me know, hey, I'm here. And it was such a sweet thing for our family. It felt like support for our family. So just think about how you can help people that are going through hard times. Again, divorce keeps like circling in my mind this morning, but whether it's divorce, loss of a loved one, it matters. It matters. So reach out and help the people that are important to you. Um, so this was probably a really rambly podcast, but I'm not going to edit it. And I do think that next week, I think I'm going to focus on divorce. I think it's about time. I think I'm ready to share some things that I've not shared before about my life, about my history with divorce, my blended family jumble that has been going on since well before I had my own blended family. But yeah, so next week we'll focus on divorce and we'll do a little series. I've got some people that have gone through divorce, some people that are going through divorce that I'll be interviewing. That'll be a really great series. So I'm super excited to talk about divorce. Woohoo! Anyway, I may even rope Steven into talking about his divorce and what that looked like for him because I don't know. It's interesting to hear. Like, I loved having Tim talk about his traumatic loss as a child versus my traumatic loss as a child and how women and men process things differently. So I think that might be a good thing. I'll see if I can talk him into that one. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Thank you for those of you who listen to this rambling mess this morning. I promise these won't always be tearful. They won't always be at 3 in the morning. That just when it's pushing, tugging on my heart, I think it's God tapping me like, hey, this is what needs to happen. This is what you need to talk about. So hopefully it helps someone. And I'm always here. If you want to reach out, my email address is kim@thinspacewellness.com. I'll put it in the show notes. So feel free to reach out, shoot me a message. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, I would love to talk with you. If you have ideas for the podcast, please let me know. If you have questions, if you are a person who's struggling and need help, if you're stuck, if it's emotional stuckness, if you're stuck in your body, if you're stuck in this crazy midlife transition, if you need help or you need to talk to somebody, please contact me. I'm here. I see you. I'm here. And if I can't help, I will help you find the person that can. So please reach out. But have a great week in this crazy midlife journey that we're on. We're headed back to Colorado on Thursday, so my next podcast will be from there. And I'm super excited. So I hope you guys, again, have a good week, and we'll see you on the next episode. Join us next time. Bye.